I'm Heather Lauer with the Pickens Plan, and we launched the Pickens Plan on July 8th of 2008, so we are coming up on our one-year anniversary. When Boone actually came up with the concept in mid-May and started talking to a group of us about launching the campaign, but it all kind of came together very last minute, and we had our first campaign team meeting on June 22nd, and 2 weeks later we launched the campaign. So we knew what our mission was. He knew that he wanted to really raise the dialogue about energy independence and alternative sources to the highest levels of the campaign cycle, and get the presidential candidates talking about his plan for energy independence. And so that was really the driving force behind our entire campaign. So in a 2-week period, we conceived the campaign, put together ads, which I'm sure most of you have seen, and went on a huge media blitz for a couple of months, really trying to put the issue on the map, which we feel like we were successful in doing. And so in terms of the online strategy, when we were conceiving the campaign, we knew that ultimately we were, putting the issue on the map during the presidential cycle was our first goal, but then we knew our next step was going to be to do what we needed to do to get Congress to pass legislation, and in order to accomplish that, we were going to need an army of supporters, we call them the Pickens Plan Army, to really help us put the legislation over the top. And so everything we did from the beginning was geared towards building that army. The TV ads, the online ads, all the events that Boone was doing around the country, it was very much focused on go to the website, sign up. So we knew we needed to build the Army. We knew we needed to figure out a way to organize them, but like a lot of other organizations in early to mid-2008, we were kind of figuring it out as we went. How are we going to use these social media tools? We knew we needed to have a presence on Facebook and MySpace and all the other social networking sites out there in order to really grow our Army, but we went through it, and having only conceived and executed the campaign in a 2-week period, it was a relatively short debate, but we did go through a debate of how do we best organize these people. Do we want to bring them to our own website, or do we want to go to where they are? And we got introduced to Ning.com during that 2-week period and decided we're going to give this a shot and see what happens, and try to organize our own community while also building our presence on Facebook and MySpace and Twitter and YouTube. So we kind of created a social media presence externally, and then we built our internal social network. And to our surprise, we had absolutely no idea what to expect. I think we kind of assumed we'd probably have to go where people were. We weren't quite sure people were going to come to us, but we really put effort into it and made it a prominent part of our strategy, our media strategy in terms of driving people to the site. And so we went with it to see what happens. And to our surprise, within a month, we had 100,000 people join our custom social network. And we have 1.5 million supporters who have signed up just along the way, but 200,000 of them now are engaged in our online social network at push.pickensplan.com, which is hosted on the Ning network. And Todd will talk a little bit more about how we're integrating our other social media presences into that social network, but this is really our core organizing tool for the campaign. And, you mentioned the 52-year-old woman in California, and this being kind of a new experience for her. It's the same thing. We've had the very same experience with our supporter base. It's actually a much older audience. For a lot of them, this was their first time engaging in a social network. They had absolutely no idea what they were doing. They knew they wanted to be involved. They felt really passionate about the energy independence issue, but they wanted somebody to tell them how they could get more involved, and they wanted to be a part of a community around it. We ultimately think that's why our internal network ended up being more successful than our external presence. But we then kind of were going along and trying to figure out, well, how are we going to get the most out of this network? And so then we ultimately ended up creating a regional leader and district leader structure for managing and activating these supporters. And so within our social network, we have it's a campaign organization. We have 7 paid staffers who are based all around the country and work remotely, and they're responsible for interacting with supporters in various regions around the country. And then we have volunteer district leaders in almost every congressional district in the United States, and they're responsible for actually doing things on the ground, whether it's placing a letter to the editor, or meeting with their member of Congress, or recruiting new supporters, or whatever activity we've got people focused on at any given point. We're really executing a lot of this through our district leader program, and it's been incredibly rewarding. We've given up a lot of power and control in doing it, but it's really paid off, and it's been the core of our success. So we are continuing to push forward. We've got several energy bills that we're working on. We had some stuff that we wanted in the stimulus package, but we're still in this for a while, and we've still got a fight ahead of us in terms of energy legislation. So the Army and our social networks continue to be the core of that, and that will continue to be the main place where we are executing our strategy. So that's where we are.
Okay, go ahead, Todd. I will go. So I'm Todd Zeigler. Basically, on the Pickens Plan, Heather is the client, and I basically work for her, and we do the technical part of it and also manage the community and manage the presences on the various social networks. I think Alexis, my coworker, has put little stats on your chair, but to kind of talk about the success a little bit more, there's been 1.1 million emails to Congress that were basically driven through the website. 1.5 million people have signed up, 200,000 people on the social network. And the thing about the social network, push.pickensplan.com, is that that's really, those people are our most committed volunteers. There's a lot of military analogies in this whole Pickens Plan thing, which is, so those are our special forces. I think Gina from Ning yesterday called them the lieutenants. But those are the leaders of the community, and those are the people that will essentially go to war for you. Those are the people that will show up at people's offices and pound on the door and demand to meet with their congressman, and then he signed the Pickens Plan pledge that they'll support our energy bills, etc. So I know a lot of people are very skeptical when you say 1.1 million emails. That's great, but a lot of people will say that getting somebody to actually show up in person, turning the online action into offline action is actually, that's the holy grail. And the social network that we built on Ning really allowed for that to happen and facilitated these offline meetups, etc. So I think that's huge. I want to talk a little bit about what we did on Twitter, Facebook, etc. As Heather mentioned, right when the campaign went up initially, basically the Facebook, Twitter, and the Ning network were up all at the same time simultaneously. I actually wasn't involved at that point. I kind of came in a few weeks after the initial launch. And the Ning network took off, as she said, 100,000 people literally within a month. And the Facebook, Twitter, MySpace stuff moved, basically increased in numbers at a much slower rate. At this point, we have 30,000 people that are fans of us on Facebook. We have around probably 10,000 Twitter followers and around 20,000 people on MySpace. So it's not been as successful. We essentially have, the strategy's been to kind of set up outposts of the Pickens Plan on all of these networks. We're essentially cross-publishing all of our content there. We're taking actions, or pushing our actions that we're trying to get people to do through those networks. So we're really trying to take the content to the places where the people are. So if the people are on Facebook or Eons or wherever, we should probably set up Eons actually, given our demographics. Thanks, Jose. Facebook, Twitter. So we basically really are kind of trying to put the content on all these spots so that it's very seamless. And then we also answer mail that comes in through Facebook, direct messages on Twitter, like we do with the mail that comes in through the site. So it's really just all very seamless and one kind of thing. But the thing that I've really noticed in my work on Pickens and also in other networks is that the Facebook and Twitter, it's great to build followings there. They're very important tools, but the value of those followers is not nearly as great as the value of somebody whose email you have or somebody that's in your Ning network. We have all that data. We have their email. We can get in touch. We know who they are, etc. Whereas on Facebook, Twitter, essentially, we can message them through those platforms, but we really can't get in touch in any other way. And people tend to tune out, I think, their Twitter feed. You don't check that. You don't see every tweet. If you do, maybe you people do because you're obviously here, but normal people don't. I'm one of the you people. So don't get offended, is it? So they're not obsessively checking that. And I think a lot of people, I couldn't tell you what pages I'm fans of on Facebook. I just I like bacon. I like, whatever. And then you forget about it.
Amen.
She wrote a book about bacon. Jose left that out of her. Oh, that's and she has a Ning network about bacon. Awesome. Which we all should join. So basically, I think it's a lot harder to get those people to do things. So we may have 30,000 people that are fans on Facebook, but getting those people to click and come to our site and do things is hard. In a lot of cases, I think the act of becoming a fan of your organization is pretty much as you're ever going to get some of those people to do, or most of those people to do.
So you're saying email is still the killer app?
Email is still a killer app. I'd rather have...
You can tweet that if you want, but that's it.